In the quiet darkness of the medieval world, where most people lived and died without their names ever being written down, there was a boy whose life began in chains. He was not born in a palace. He did not grow up surrounded by silk or gold. His earliest memories were not of comfort, but of fear, dust, and loss. He was taken from his home as a child, sold in a market like an object, and forced to survive in a world that saw him as disposable, and yet, against all odds, this boy would one day sit on a throne. This is the true story of a slave who became a sultan. The story begins far from the great cities of power. Somewhere in the vast lands north of the Black Sea, a child was born into a simple family. His world was small and quiet. He knew the sound of wind across open land, the warmth of fire at night, and the voices of people who loved him. But one day, that world ended. Raiders came without warning. Villages were burnt, families were torn apart, and children were taken. The boy was captured, bound, and forced to walk for days with others like him, all of them terrified, all of them unsure if they would live to see another sunrise. Eventually, he was sold. The slave market was loud, crowded, and cruel. People were inspected like animals. Teeth, muscles, scars, each everything was judged. For a child, this moment marked the end of freedom. He was bought by traders and sent south toward the heart of the Islamic world, where a unique system existed, one that would change his fate forever. In many Islamic states, especially in the medieval period, enslaved boys were trained as elite soldiers. They were called Mamluks, a word that literally meant owned. These boys were taken from their homelands, converted to Islam, educated, and trained in warfare, discipline, and loyalty. Though they were slaves by law, their position was unlike anything else in history. They were given power, weapons, and responsibility, and some of them would rise higher than kings. The boy entered this world. Quietly, he learned a new language. He learned new prayers. He learned how to ride a horse, how to draw a bow, how to fight with a sword. Discipline shaped every hour of his day. Pain was common. Failure was punished. But strength, intelligence, and loyalty were rewarded. As years passed, the boy became a man. His body grew strong. But more importantly, his mind grew sharp. He watched carefully. He learned how commanders spoke, how leaders made decisions, how fear and respect worked. He understood that power was not only held by birthright, but by those who knew how to take it and keep it. In time, he earned trust. He was promoted. He became an officer, then a commander. Around him, other Mamluks rose as well. Together, they formed a military elite that protected the state and slowly, quietly, began to control it. The world they lived in was unstable. Crusaders threatened from the west. Mongols destroyed cities from the east, Empires collapsed overnight. Rulers were assassinated, overthrown, or replaced. In this chaos, the Mamluks proved something extraordinary. They were disciplined, united, and deadly effective. They defeated the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut, an event that shocked the world and saved the Islamic heartlands from destruction. Power shifted. Sultans who once ruled by noble blood now depended entirely on Mamluk support. And when a ruler grew weak or lost the loyalty of the army, he was removed. Sometimes quietly, sometimes violently. The former slave was now one of the most powerful men in the state. He controlled troops. He controlled resources. He controlled fear. And when the moment came when the throne stood vulnerable, he did not hesitate. He became Sultan. The irony of history is heavy here. A man who once had no control over his own life now ruled millions. A man bought and sold now commanded armies. He wore robes of power, set in halls of marble, and his name was spoken with reverence and terror. But the past never truly disappears. The Sultan understood cruelty because he had lived it. Sometimes this made him a harsh ruler. Sometimes it made him a careful one. He strengthened the army, fortified cities, and ensured that the Mamluk system continued bringing new boys into the same path he once walked. Under his rule, the state was strong, trade flowed, enemies were kept at bay, but life at the top was never peaceful. Assassination was always possible. Betrayal was common. The same system that raised him could destroy him. And eventually, like all men, his life ended. He did not die as a slave. He did not die forgotten. He died as a ruler whose story would echo through history, a living contradiction to the idea that fate is fixed at birth. Today, when we look back at the Mamluk sultans, we see something rare. A society where slaves ruled kings, where power was earned through survival, intelligence, and strength rather than blood alone. It was brutal, it was violent, but it was real. As night falls and the world grows quiet, this story reminds us of something unsettling and powerful. Even in the darkest systems, human will can rise. Even from chains, a throne can be reached. And somewhere in history's long silence, the footsteps of a boy taken from his home still echo, walking not toward freedom, but toward destiny.